Hello guys and welcome again to my channel. So it's been a long time since we have had our upload, so I'll go directly straight to the point. So I am trying to discuss this in English, but this is not my primary language. So if you find it confusing, you can turn on the subtitles, or if you find me slow, of course you can tweak the settings on your YouTube application, and then you can choose on the speed 1.25, 1.5, or 2 times. Okay? So, with that, let's talk about capital budgeting techniques immediately. So, these capital budgeting techniques helps you to assess your long-term investments. So, capital budgeting techniques helps assess long-term investments. So, meaning, if you're working in a company and we're talking about long-term investments, you'll be able to use these capital budgeting techniques. Or else, if you have your own investments also, you can use this. So it could either be a new business or a new branch, for example, or else it could be investing in long-term assets like property, plant, and equipment. So you can use these techniques in order to assess those long-term investments. And particularly, you'll be able to answer these three questions. The first question is, how much is the cost of the investment? That's the first one. So why would you be very concerned about this one? Because if we're talking about long-term investments, I know that funds are limited in nature. So maybe if you have some investments, you have to get the cost of the investment to answer if you can afford it or not. So that's it. That's why we have that first question. And the second question is the investment profitable? So I will introduce different types of techniques in order to determine if the investment is profitable or not. Okay? And the third question is, what is the payback period? Because even if the investment is profitable, and even if you can afford the cost of the investment, if the payback period for such investment is, for example, 60 years, um, or 100 years, so you are not already living when the payback period happens, right? So um, basically, we wanted our long-term investments to be, the cost is affordable, the investment is profitable, as well as the payback period is less, right? So that's what we want. So capital budgeting techniques will help you assess the long-term investments, especially these three questions. Okay? Now, I'll have a storytelling, what do you call this? Like illustrations that are relatable in order for you to master this. Okay? So let's first start with how much is the cost of the investment. Again, it could be a new business as an investment, or you could be able to um, have investments like buying property, plant, and equipment, or long-term assets. So our example for now is that um, you have an old spaceship, for example. No, no, no. Let's make it relatable. Old equipment, which is damaged. and is in need of major repair for 300,000. The book value of the old equipment is 250,000. It can be sold as it is for 200,000. For 200,000, and if sold, of course, and if sold, a new one, a new equipment can be purchased for 2 million. And a working capital of 100,000 will be needed to operate the new equipment. How much is the cost of equipment? How much is the cost of the equipment, of the new equipment, if tax rate is 20%? That's an example. Okay? So to elaborate further, you have an old equipment. So that old equipment is in need of major repair for 300,000. So that is already, what do we call this, illogical, in the sense that the book value of the old equipment is actually 250,000 only. Alright? And then you have to make a major repair of 300,000. So basically, this old equipment, as the problem suggests, although it is silent, I will suggest the additional information is that this old equipment is already very old. Okay? So, meaning, if that is very old already, the maintenance cost is already high. Okay? So, you are considering to buy a new equipment for 2 million, and an additional working capital is needed to be preserved in order to operate the new equipment. So basically, you will need 2.1 million. So what is that working capital of 100,000? It's actually, you have to think of that as a reserve. That's current assets minus current liabilities. It's a reserve working capital, so that whenever there are emergencies that will happen to the new equipment, you'll be able to afford the maintenance cost, the breakdown, and everything. So that's why I told you you need 2.1 million actually. But that's not how we compute the cost of the investment actually. So again, your option is to abandon your old equipment and sell it for 200,000 at a loss of 50,000, because the book value of the old equipment in your financial statements, in your books, is 250,000. And then, after abandoning it, you can buy a new equipment for 2 million with a requirement of working capital of 100,000, which is needed to operate the new equipment. So again, how much is the cost of the new equipment if the tax rate is 20%? Okay? Now, in order to compute the cost, you will have, my technique is always, you have to compute the benefit and the cost. So, what will be the benefit in this case? So, first off, let's talk about the cost. The cost is 2 million plus the working capital requirement of 100,000. That's clear. Okay? However, there are other things that you need to consider. The first one is you will have, if ever you are going to buy a new equipment, you will not suffer on the major repair already of 300,000, which is good, right? So that is good. So actually, you will have a benefit of 300,000. But then again, there is also, what do we call this? A cost on this one. What is a cost of this 300,000? As you can see, there is a tax rate of 20%. So that means if you are not going to have a repairs expense of 300,000, if this is your income statement, and there is a 300,000 supposedly if you are not going to buy a new equipment, and this is your sales, for example, and for example, this is your only expense, you would have 700,000 and then you'll be taxed at 20%. So that's 140,000 tax. So 700 minus 140,600. There should only be 540,000. Okay? So this contributed to the reduction of taxes. Why? Because if this is not here, then what will be taxed is this 1 million, which is 1 million times 20%, that is 200,000. So believe it or not, there is a tax savings if ever you have this 300,000 repairs expense. But since you will not be suffering for this anymore, then your taxes will be bigger. So if that is the case, you have to put the 300,000 times 20% here on the cost, which is 60,000. Right? So meaning, you might have saved for the repairs expense, but your taxes became greater because you cannot already deduct the 300,000 on your income statement. So if you cannot deduct that already, your taxes will be greater. So that is my full analysis on this one, on the major repair. Okay? Which is why I always put the benefit versus the cost. Okay? Now, another thing that you should think is that it was sold for 200,000. And the book value of the equipment is 250,000, which means if you are going to make an entry, we have equipment, $250,000, and you will only get a cash of 200, there will be a loss of 50,000. Okay? So if there is a loss of 50,000, that is actually a cost here because you have suffered, right? No. Loss, right? So actually, we don't care about the loss. Basically, I have not remembered. It's the loss. Okay, so this is it. So you have a cash of 200,000. Let's talk about this cash first. So this cash is 200,000, and if that is the case, if you're going to give up the old equipment, then you'll be able to realize this 200,000, which meant that you are not going to give 2.1 million as a cost. Actually, it will be reduced by how much? 200,000, of course. Because I guess Not I guess, because it's logical that when you sell that old equipment and there are proceeds, such proceeds will be used to buy a new equipment. So basically, if you're going to be asked, you're not going to pay actually 2 million. It's 1.8 only, minus the 200,000 uh, that you have realized by selling the old equipment. Okay? So that's how you compute the cost. But then again, we have this loss. Okay? So how do we treat that loss? First off, that loss is to be deducted here because it's a loss, right? However, since there is a loss, there is a tax savings because of that, right? So it will go to the benefit. So which is 50,000 times 20%. So that is 10,000. So it means that even though you have incurred a loss of 50,000, which is a negative aspect of this particular problem that we're talking about, it will belong to the cost. However, because of that loss, you will have a tax savings because that loss is tax deductible. So meaning, if you minus 50,000 here because of the loss, of course, your tax that is going to be paid to the tax authority will be lessened also. So although there is a loss, there is a tax benefit. So basically, that's the only thing that you need to consider in this illustrative problem. So this is how you compute the cost. So we have benefit, we have 500,000. Again, the 300,000 is the savings on the repairs plus the 200,000, which is the cash proceeds in selling the old equipment, plus 10,000. So we have 510,000 as the benefit. But I don't like to call this benefit because, okay, let's call that benefit and cost. Okay, so we have 510,000. And in here, we have a cost of 2.1 million plus 60,000 plus 50,000. That's 110. 210. 2,210,000. So 2,210,000 minus 510 is 1,700,000. I don't know if I'm right, but that is 1,700,000, I guess. So that's how you analyze how much is the cost of the investment. So you have to analyze both the benefit and the cost. And I hope that the logic for computation of how much is the cost of investment is clear to you. Okay? So that's part one of the capital budgeting techniques. And this is centered on how much is the cost of the investment. Okay? Now, let's talk about, is the investment profitable? So, in looking for profitability of an investment, let's have another illustration. So, let's start first with an example. Like, for example, um, the net income for a particular project or net savings. So it's not only net income, but the net savings of the company is 300,000. So if we are going to relate it to our example a while ago, so the cost of the investment is 1.7. So the net income or the net savings is actually 300,000 for the next 5 years. The question is, how will you compute the accounting rate of return? So the accounting rate of return is basically the net income or the return, which is 300,000, okay, over the cost of the investment. So that's 300,000 over 1.7. Let me calculate it. Uh, so that's 17.64%. Of course, the interpretation for this one, the higher, the better. Okay? So the higher, the better. So that's the simplest measure for is the investment profitable. We have to use the accounting rate of return. Okay? But sometimes in the problem, you will be given the net cash flow. Sometimes you'll be asked to use the net cash flow. So the net cash inflow is basically the net income plus depreciation. Because if you still remember, the net income is already netted by depreciation because when you compute for net income, that's sales or revenues minus expenses, including the depreciation expense. And if you still remember, this depreciation expense is actually a non-cash item. So it is an expense, but there is no cash involved. Okay? So if you are going to look for the net cash inflow, especially in other techniques, capital budgeting techniques later on, and you are given the net income, of course, net income plus depreciation, that is already the net cash inflow. Okay? Now, if you are given in the problem, what is the accounting rate of return, and you have been given the net cash inflow, what you need to do, net cash inflow minus depreciation only, and you'll get the net income, which is needed here in the numerator of the accounting rate of return. It's as easy as that. Okay? Now, let me check if it's still recording. Now, let's go to the other measures on how to determine if the investment is profitable. So we have here the net present value. So on the net present value or NPV, you just have to get the present value of net cash flows and then you deduct the present value of outflows. And then you will have the net present value. So that's the net present value. And if it is positive and it is greater, then the investment is profitable. So how do we do that? So present value of net cash inflow. Supposedly, if a problem tells you that the net cash inflow is 1 million per year for the next 10 years. Discount rate is 12%. the net cash inflow can be computed, or the present value of the net cash inflow can be computed as 1 million times 1 minus 1.12 raised to the power of negative 10 over 0.12. So this is the present value ordinary annuity. It is because the 1 million that you are going to receive will happen repeatedly for the next 10 years. So this is why you have to do this. So again, the concept of present value is, for example, in this particular situation, the 1 million per year, you will receive that in the future. And actually, you're going to receive all in all 10 million if this happens, 1 million per year. Okay? So that is the value in the future. But how about now? How much is the value of that? So that's the point of getting the present value. Okay? How about now? So again, the 1 million, which will be repeatedly um, realized per year for the next 10 years, you can get the present value using this present value ordinary annuity. So I'm going to assume that you're already well versed with present value and discounting. So 1 minus 1.12, 1 minus 1.12 raised to the power of negative 10 equals, divided by 0.12, we have 5.6502. 5.6502. So, again, let's check. 1 minus 1.12 raised to the power of negative 10 divided by 0.12 is 5.6502. 5 5.6502 times 1 million equals 5, 650, 200. So that's how you get the present value of the net cash inflows. And again, if you are going to be given an accounting income, you just have to add the depreciation in order to get the net cash inflow. So this is the ones that you're gonna use here. 5,650,200. Okay? How about the present value of outflows? Of course, if we are going to connect it with our last illustrative example where the cost of investment is 1.7, we're going to put here 1.7 immediately. We do not have to discount it. It is because the 1.7 is actually expressed in the present value already. Because that is the cost that you are going to pay immediately as of now. Do you get it? So you don't have to present value the 1.7. Okay? But there are some of those investments that would need an investment now and that would need an investment 2 years later. So if that would be the case, the investment now, you don't need to discount it. But your investment in the next 2 years, in the next 2 years or in the future, you have to present value it. For example, this is the one-time cost as of now. So we have 1.7. And you have to pay 300,000 in the future, for example, after 2 years. So what will happen is the present value of the outflows will become 1.7 now. You don't need to present value this because it's already in the present value. But the 300,000 that you are to invest in the future, you have to present value that one raised to the power of negative 2. This is what's going to happen. 300,000 times 1.12 raised to the power of negative 2. Why is it? And not like this, because this 300,000 is also a one-time investment in after. the second year. Di follow? So you don't need to follow this present value ordinary annuity. You have to follow the simple 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n. Okay? So the point is, the present value outflows, mostly, they are not um, discounted already or subjected to present value computation. It is because sometimes there is only one-time investment and they are going to put that investment now. So the investment is already at present value. But there are also times, there, but I would like to let you know that there are also times that investments in the future period is needed. And if that is the case, the future investment should be subjected to present value. Okay? So for example, we have to stick to our example. We have 1.7. So the net present value here is big, right? So 5,650 minus 1,7, 3,950, 200. 3,950, 200. So that's a lot. That's bigger, right? So if that's the case, then the investment is really profitable. You see, the present value of outflows is only 1.7. But the potential net cash inflows at present value already is 5,650, 200. Okay? So that's net present value for you. So we are through with accounting rate of return and we're through with the net present value. The next one is easy. We have the profitability index. Profitability index. In which the profitability index is just the inflows, the present value of the inflows over present value of outflows. That's it. So here in the net present value, you have present value of net cash inflows minus present value of the outflows. Here, present value of inflows is the numerator, present value of the outflows is the denominator. That's it. And if ever, the answer is 1 above or above 1, 5, 6, 20, 200, 650, 200 over 1.7, for example, 5, 6, 50, 200 divided by 1.7, you have 3.3236. 3.3236. So that means that's how big your present value of inflows compared to your present value of outflows. So it's 3 times bigger. So the higher the profitability index, the better. And it is supposed to be higher, than 1. Because if it is higher than 1, that means it's higher than the present value of the outflows. If it is below than 1, then that means the outflows are greater than the inflows. And lastly, for the second question, is the investment profitable? You will have the internal rate of return or the discounted cash flow rate of return. So how do you compute for this one? This is actually a rate. Alright? So that rate is the rate that will make your present value of net cash inflows equals the present value of your outflows. So, for example, in that particular example, we have 5,650. We have to make that 1.7. The present value of inflows should be equal to present value of outflows, 17. This should be the outcome. So we have to find a rate that will make the present value of the inflows equal the present value of outflows. I will discuss later what's the meaning of that. Okay? So, as you can see, we cannot change the fact that you are to receive present value of inflows of 1 million for the next 10 years. So, just like this one. However, we used here the 12%, which is why we have extracted 5, 6, 50, 200. So, what we're gonna do is we have to change this rate so that after changing this rate, this will become 1.7. And I guess you already know that the higher the rate, of course, the lower the value. So we have to try a rate which is higher than 12%. And since 1.7 is, I guess, if I am to 1.7, how far is 1.7 from 5,650? That's here, 3 times. So we could try 3 times this 12%. That is just my guess. So you have 12% times 3. That's 36%. Let's try 35%. So 1 million times 1 minus 1.35, 1.35 raised to the power of negative 10 over 0.35. Let's see if ever it's very near to 1.7. So no. Again, 1 minus 1.35 raised to the power of negative 10 divided, equals divided by 0.35. That is 2.715 times 2 million. It's still far. You're gonna get times 1 million. You're gonna get 2715. So we're still short because we have to get the 1.7. So, however, when we multiplied it by 3, it became nearer. So I would guess 45%. Let's try 45%. Times 1 minus 1.45% raised to the power of negative 10 divided by 0.45. So 1 million, 1 minus 1.45 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.45. It's still 2.16. So 1.50. Last attempt. 1 million times 1 minus 1.50 raised to the power of negative 10 over 0.50. 1 minus 1.50 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.50. We have 1.9653. So it's still 1.9, but it's neither. So we have 1.55, I guess. 1 million times 1 minus 1.55 raised to the power of negative 10 over 0.55. 1 minus 1.55 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.55. Yeah, that's 1.795466. So times 1 million, of course, it is nearer 1,795,466. But still, it's still bigger. So let's compute for, I don't know, 57%. So 1 minus 1.57 raised to the power of negative raised to the power of negative 10, right? Equals, oh no, 1 minus 1.57 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.57. Yeah, it's still 1.735. And let's round it up into 60. Okay, 1 minus 1.60 raised to the power of negative 1 minus 1.60 raised to the power of negative 10 divided by 0.60. Yeah, it's 1651 already. So we can already make an interpolation based on this. So 1651, let me see again. When we use actually 60%, we got 1,651,508. When we got 59, for example, 1 minus 1.59 raised to the power of negative 10 divided by 0.59, it's 59 is equivalent to 1,678,503. So it's much nearer. So it's 58. Last and 58. 1 minus 1.58. 1 minus 1.58 raised to the power of negative 10 divided by 0.58. No. 1 minus 1.58 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.58. 1706. 1706. 355. See? This is neither the 58%. Actually, if you have an interpolation, you'll be able to get the exact percentage. It is between 58 and 59%. So, I guess I will not make it very difficult by making an interpolation. I wanted to assume that you already knew how to interpolate, but if not, let's interpolate. How do you get the exact? Although it's very near already. So first, you have to put on 59 and then 58. and then what you get is 1651, 508, and 1678, 503. Uh, this is X, for example, and you have to find the 17. No. The 59, what's this one is 1706, 355. So we have to get this X. So you can have this. So 59 minus 8 is 1%. 1651, 1651, 508 minus 1706, 355 is only 54,847. But it's negative. So meaning, when the percentage change only by 1%, there is a change in the value of negative 54,847. So that's the first equality that we have to consider. And 59 minus x is actually, let's call it n. So n is equivalent to 1651, 508 minus 17, 48,492 negative. So what are we to do next? So you have to cross multiply. So 48,492 times 0.01 is negative 484.92. Next is, we have negative 54,847. N. And then, in order to get the N, we have 484.92 divided by negative 54,847 divided by negative 54,847. So N is actually 0.008841. So that is positive 3,222. So that meant, since N is 59, yeah, 0.59 minus x, and this is the answer. So what we are to do, again, since n is 50.59 minus x is equivalent to n, that one. So what we are to do is to transpose this 0.59 to here, 0.59, and then this will be cancelled out. We have negative x is equivalent to minus 0.59. Negative x is equivalent to negative 0.58 1158 or 58.11% divided by negative 1. X is 58.12%. So you can check it by substituting 1 million times 1 minus 1.5812 raised to the power negative 10 divided by 0.5812. Actually, let's do that. If it is really near, because if it could not be perfect, it will be very near 1.7. So 1 minus 1.5812 12 raised to the power of negative 10 equals divided by 0.5812, 1702. So 2,000 times 1 million. So we have 29 already. So maybe we could make it 58.13, something like that, so that we'll be able to get the exact. So you can do that process until you get the 1.7 if ever. But if we're talking about multiple choices, of course, even if we do not have interpolation, we'll be able to see that it is between 58 and 59. And in the choices, you can immediately see what is the answer that is between 58 and 59%. The question is, what is the meaning of that 58%? The meaning of that 58% is that even if we're going to borrow money, the 1.7, the present value of outflows, we're going to borrow money from others, and the creditor will charge us 58%, 58.12%. We will still be able to get back the inflow that is needed to pay for such debt. Okay? So that's how profitable this venture is based on our example. Again, if we borrow the 1.7 from the creditors and they charge us 58.12, we are still at break even on the net present value. Do you understand? So that's how profitable our example is. The cost of investment is 1.7 and we have net cash inflows of 5, 6, 50, 200. And in this particular case, we only have 12% as the cost of capital, for example. So the difference is very big, right? So if we're going to borrow the 12%, we're going to borrow the 1.7 in order to purchase or um, to afford the long-term investment, we will have 5, 6, 50, 200. Again, this 58%, the interpretation is even if the creditor will charge us 58% in this investment of 1.7, we could still afford it because the investment is really profitable. So let's talk about when are we going to get this payback period. So the payback period is actually just like this. For example, you will have an investment of 1.7. So that is the beginning investment that you have to get. Okay? So we have the receipts or the inflows, net cash inflows. We have here year one. We have here the ending investment, something like that. So what will happen is that 1.7, and for example, you have net cash inflow of 1 million. So 1.7 minus 1 million will still have 700,000 that we have to take back. Okay? So meaning the payback period is more than 1 year. So I'm gonna put here 1. However, on year 2, if ever the net cash inflow is 700,000, so you'll be able to have ending investment, beginning investment, you'll be able to have 2 years payback period. That's how you compute for the payback period. However, in such a case that the net cash inflow of the company is 1 million, how will you compute for the payback period? Of course, you'll have 1.7 minus 1 million, 700, 700 over 1 million. So that means this will become 0, but you don't need to wait for the 1 whole year. So meaning, in here, you just have 700,000 over 1 million. That's 0.70. So 1.70 years. Or you could convert that into number of months by 1.70 times 12 months. Or 1 year and the 0.70 years, you have to multiply it with 12 months. You're gonna get the 1 year plus how many months. Okay? So that's as easy as that. So that is how you compute for the payback period. Another technique is the payback bailout. The payback bailout is considering the salvage value already. So for example, if you have the beginning investment of 1.7 and the net cash inflow is 1 million and the salvage value is actually only 500,000. In this case, we have the payback bailout already, okay? Payback bailout. On the payback bailout, you have to decide what will happen. For example, 1.7, the net cash inflow is 1 million. So you have to get 700,000. The salvage value in here, it means that after using the equipment, you can sell it at 500,000 already. So that means you can only realize 1.5. So you will not do it. So you have to ignore first the salvage value. So if you ignore that salvage value because you're not going to sell it, you have 700 here. And for example, since the ending investment that you are to, what do you call this? To take back, you have to copy it in the beginning investment. And then the net cash inflow, for example, is 400. And the salvage value is 400. And that means you'll be able to exercise already the salvage value. In year 1, you have ignored it because you will not be able to get the investment immediately, the full 1.7, because you can only get 1 million plus 500. But this time, you only have 700, but you are to get 400 and 400. So that's 800. So this is already 0. The question is, how many years is the payback bailout? Um, First, you have to remember that the salvage value will be realized any time of the year. So you cannot say that the whole 800,000 divided by 12 months, 800,000 divided by 12, which is 66,667. That's the inflow for the company. It's not. The 400,000 is immediately realized when it is sold. So meaning this is the net cash inflow that's earned every month. So again, these two has different characteristics. The net cash inflow is earned over the year. So meaning 400,000 divided by 12, 33,333 per month. How about this one? This one is not earned during the year or over the years or evenly during the year. It's actually the immediate cash inflow that you will have if you're going to sell the equipment after 2 years. So 400 is already a constant. So how much do you need for the net cash inflow in order to get the 700? Only 300 because it is already sure that you're gonna get this. So 300,000. So meaning, if 400,000 is for 1 whole year, 300 divided by 400, 0.75. So you have to put here 300 over 400. So this 400,000 is this one, and the 300 here is the ones you need in order to get the 700,000, given that this is already a constant. Okay? So that's 0.75. So the payback bailout is 1.75 years, or 1 year and 9 months, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? So that's how you compute what is the payback period. And sometimes, when computing for the payback, the net cash inflow are present valued. So meaning that 1 million, sometimes, if the problem says how much is the discount payback period, you have to discount this 1 million. So since it is at the end of year 1, so 1 million times 1.12, if 12% is the discount rate, times -1, that's what you are going to put right here. And if this 400,000 is going to be used in the discounted payback, 1.12 raised to the power of -2, and so on for year 3 and year 4, supposedly. But if it's not, then you have to get the net cash inflow only. Okay? So that's it for capital budgeting techniques. And if you're not sure, you can comment on your questions so that I'll be able to answer it. So thank you for watching and see you on my next episode.